Hello. It says that I'm live. Let me center my microphone. Oh God. Oh God. I don't know. Did I even grab my phone for this? Okay, I did. I'm just gonna wait to see what happens. Whenever I hum to myself, I instinctively start humming the Price is Right theme, and I don't know what that is. Like, I know what the Price is Right is. I don't know what it is in my brain that makes me do that. Let's post on social media. Because why not? Also, if anyone is here that could tell me that they can hear me, I would love that. Okay, so that was Twitter. We're doing good. OMG, where the fuck have you been? Are you okay? Oh, we'll get into that. Don't you worry. Okay, can hear fine. Okay, good. Let me just Instagram this shit. Ever since they changed around Instagram, creating posts is not easy. Live. I look like I'm ready for an apology. I have nothing to apologize for. Let's make it pink because pink's my favorite color. Your story. I have nothing to apologize for. I will say, if anyone's interested in the makeup on my face, I am wearing the Lacie blueberry tinted lip balm with blueberry extract. That's what's on my face. That and some skincare. I originally tonight was going to, I'm going to put this here, put this in my pocket. I originally tonight was going to put on a full face of makeup and film a video, but I just couldn't get my anxiety under control. I was shaking really bad, like on the verge of a panic attack. And so I figured we'll ease into coming back to YouTube with a live, because I also know that not everybody watches lives. I think just the people that give a shit about me watch the live, so that's where we are. Look at the stupid strawberry mole, red mole shirt with the whatever the fuck they're called. I'm gonna try to hide that. All of my close friends are estheticians, and I was told the only way to get rid of this would be to have it like surgically removed. So I'm just gonna live with a red dot on my head. I have my water, and I also have my inhaler if things get crazy. Okay, so who do I start? Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day. I hope I'm saying it right, because last year I got roasted for how I say Valentine's. Where do I start? Where do I begin? I haven't posted a real video, like a not live, like an edited sit down, filmed, edit, uploaded video in over 6 months. And that kind of shook me when I noticed that, because in my head I was like, it's been 3 months tops, 6 months, half a year, and growing. And I was gonna film a video today, and I've tried to film a couple videos in the past couple weeks, and nothing ends up going up on my channel. So I don't know. I'm gonna do that thing I always do where I go live and I word vomit on you all, and I'll leave it up on my channel. People who want to know where the hell I've been can figure it out. I feel like people who follow me closely and who are invested in me as a person know this whole story. And also, I recognize that I don't have to explain myself to anybody. I recognize that I owe nobody anything. Like, I know all of these things. I just like talking to the internet because I've always been a creature of the internet. I've always, like, had social circles on the internet and felt very alone in real life, but very seen on the internet, and that's still true as an adult. So I'm just gonna word vomit my feelings, and I hope that's okay, because I think a lot of people can relate. Also, I have like this blanket as a security blanket. My mother-in-law made this for Matt and I. Isn't it the most beautiful crocheted blanket you've ever seen? It matches our living room, and I just love it. So it's here as like a security blanket. Also, Tina's here. I love you, Tina. Hi, Tina. Also, like, I guess I need a disclaimer, which I hate doing disclaimers because I know we're all adults and we should be able to live in a life of YouTube without disclaimers, but people just suck, and people like to speculate about my life and my finances for some reason as it is. I don't know why. You do you, I guess. Whatever helps you pass the time. But my disclaimer for this particular live is I'm not looking for medical advice or for financial advice. I think those are the two biggies. And I'm also going to be talking about serious shit like being ill, COVID, money, capitalism, things like that. So it might be a heavy video for you, given that we're all kind of struggling. So those are my warnings. I'm like shaking. I'm normally so confident on camera, but I think because Half Cousins has ended, because I haven't posted in so long, I'm just rusty. So it feels weird to know that people are watching me again. But the beauty blender to dry my tears. I don't even have one within reach. Because I started applying my foundation with a brush. I got dog hair on me. So, I'm just going to talk as if no one knows anything about me, because I don't know to what degree people understand where I've been or what my life's been doing. I'm sure there's like why would you care? In case you are interested in me, I don't know. This time last year is when I got hired at my current job. And a lot of people were very excited for me because they thought post college that maybe I'd be working in like a social sciencey field or doing something related to what my degrees are in. And I'm not. I work in healthcare. That's about as specific as I want to get. And healthcare is obviously a very large field. It could mean anything. I'm not obviously like a doctor or a nurse, you know, but I work in healthcare, and that's like as specific as I want to be. And I got this job this time last year. Coincidentally, as we all know, we were all starting to hear rumors about this coronavirus around this time last year. It's so weird because my birthday is March 10th. And one of the last big social things I did was my best friend Anthony came up for a week to visit me and stay with me. And we were going to like museums and malls and out to eat and stuff. And we were like, oh, it's in America. I heard it came to New York. I heard it might have come to Albany, blah, blah, blah. It's just so weird to think about like this time last year. I know a lot of people can relate to that, obviously. But it's really been hitting me as we kind of approach my birthday, like what my birthday was last year and just how weird it is. But anyway, I got hired end of February last year in a healthcare job. My first kind of healthcare job. Shout out to Teresa's dad for encouraging me to go for the position that I have, because it's not something I would have thought to do or thought that I was qualified to do, but it was a good call. in a lot of aspects. So shout out to Teresa. She's been like I know I always call Teresa my mom, but in reality, I really view Teresa like a big sister who is always rooting for me and always in my corner. And just like, I appreciate everything she's done for me. But anyway, so getting hired in healthcare around this time last year was really weird because a lot of the trainings I had to do were moved or pushed back or limited in like size class, or some things I got to do at home, some things I had to do in person. I had to get all of these injections. I had to get all of this like exams and stuff like that because of the severity of the type of healthcare that I work in. Again, I'm trying to be as not specific as possible. I think other people who work in healthcare can maybe put two and two together, but I'm just going to leave it at that. And I would appreciate if nobody like guessed what I did. But anyway, so I had to get like a bunch of vaccines, a TB test, but like background checks, like all kinds of crap like that. And I remember starting my job and COVID was so new that they just had to, my job started to make us take our temperatures in the morning. Like that was a brand new implement for the place I worked in, for the place I work at, just like when I first started. So that's how new this all became. And like my gift from my boss for my desk was a brand new bottle of hand sanitizer. Like, so that kind of, but it still wasn't wearing masks at work and like things like that. And it was just very like in the air. And then shit obviously got serious with the world, with COVID, thus making my job get very serious. And again, being as not specific as possible, I have always been at an extremely high risk for being in contact with COVID because of my job. And then I accepted a promotion a few months into accepting the job. So I moved up very quickly. And that put me at even higher risk of contracting COVID. Just because of the populations that we serve and who I see on a daily basis and what I do. I'm sorry, I can't be more specific than that. It's just I'm very open about most things in my life, but my job is one thing I would like to keep as private as possible. But anyway, so I always kind of felt like this whole time that getting COVID was inevitable. And I think a lot of people felt that way. And in fact, at one point, my job had to start offering mental health services for free because everyone is so fucked by this whole situation. I don't know anyone in my life who isn't just been severely fucked by this whole situation, right? And so I took advantage of that because it was really brutal for me to have gone through all of the pain of like job hunting and how stressful that was to immediately getting the relief of finding a good job and that being crushed by a pandemic and being forced to work in a circumstance that I never foresaw myself having to work in. And I think a lot of people never foresaw themselves having to work in. Like all the first responders in the world, all of the essential workers, I don't think anybody ever foresaw their jobs being as dangerous as what COVID created, right? So I get winded talking, so bear with me. We'll get to that. So as somebody who already struggled with mental health issues, it took a toll on me, obviously. Plus, my husband is an essential worker. He's a DSP. He takes care of adults with different degrees of disabilities. And we all know that group homes were being hit very hard with COVID. So every time one of us left the house, I was convinced that like one of us would die. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being facetious. Like I'm not being hyperbolic. There was one point where Matt's job did get hit with COVID pretty spot on, pretty fast. And it was so scary. He would literally like come inside the door and take off everything he wore to work and immediately get in the shower. We were disinfecting everything. It was so scary. I used to do this thing that I like to call COVID chess, where I'd be like, okay, if the package that was just dropped off at the door had COVID on it, and I touched the package, then touched the doorknob, and then touched the sink, then I need to disinfect the sink and the doorknob. Like I would literally try to like track germs in my head. And that's like a terrible way to live because the level of anxiety that was always around, and I'm an anxious person normally, right? And I don't try to hide that, like I just am. The one good thing is that through this like mental health hotline that my job gave to all of us, I was able to be led to like an actual therapist, an actual psychiatrist. And that actually is like the silver lining of this whole situation. And I think I said this in one of my last lives. I was correctly diagnosed. So I had been in the past diagnosed with a panic disorder, and I don't think that was a correct diagnosis, and neither does my current doctor. I've been diagnosed with dysthymia, which is kind of like, in layman's terms, like I'm always depressed. Like in like major depressive disorder and things like that, you go through waves of like maybe a couple weeks of being depressed and a couple weeks of being fine. I'm pretty much always floating around rock bottom is the best way I could put it. And I have anxiety because of my depression. And I went through the process of trying a bunch of different medications and doing all this stuff. And now, like I said, the silver lining is I'm on a really good regimen. I'm on a really good medication. I'm on a really good schedule. I have a lot of support now. I have a therapist who I am so appreciative of. I have a doctor that I'm so appreciative of. And I feel like I'm finally happy for the first time in my life. And that's really bizarre. It's really bizarre to not have that dark cloud in the back of my head all of the time. It's really bizarre to like catch myself smiling at the view of the mountains as I drive to work, or turning up music a little bit louder so I could sing along to it, or like just genuinely being appreciative of everything I have because, and this is dark, but I don't care, we're going there. I've spent most of my life pissed off that I exist in the first place. So it's really ridiculous in the best possible way to not feel it anymore and to be glad that I'm here every day. So that's the silver lining of COVID, right? Is that my mental health got so bad because of COVID that I had no place to go but up. So if you've ever needed a sign to ask for help, please, because it's so worth it. But anyway, silver linings of COVID. And so where does it lead off? So job stress, and through all of that, I should say. So I've never, as we all know, have been good at like balancing multiple things in my life. And with the job being as stressful as it was and becoming as draining as it was because of everything, I had no energy every day to do anything but get up, go to work, and come home. And just come home and just be a zombie and wait to go to bed and repeat. Like that's been my life since the start of this pandemic, has just been like doing my job, coming home, and waiting to go back to my job, which is just fucked. That's such a fucked way to live. And I didn't have any energy to do YouTube, to do anything, to play video games, like do anything that made me happy. I stopped cooking. Like I really like my plants went to shit, my house went to shit. Like I just didn't have energy. And I learned through this whole mental health process that like most people don't have energy emotionally to do all of the things they want to do because we're in a fucking pandemic. But I, especially given having dysthymia, your body works really hard to keep you alive, and it's very exhausting, like physically demanding and physically exhausting to be depressed every day. So my body just didn't have the energy. And that made me feel a lot better, actually, because I think when you're depressed or you're anxious or anything like that, you convince yourself that you're lazy. You convince yourself that you're just not doing enough. You convince yourself that there's something wrong with you and that you should be able to do all these things. So it was really, really validating for somebody else to be like, no, your body's just trying to survive. And that's what it's felt like for this last year, is that I've truly just been in survival mode. And there's been no time for anything else. There's been no time to like enjoy anything. It's been very weird. And I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to this. Like that's why I'm saying it, because I'm sure that a lot of people can relate. Even if you don't have any like chronic health issues, mental health issues, I think in general, trying to survive this past year has been very exhausting for most people. So been treating my mental health, my energy's been getting better, right? Blah, blah, blah. This is all over the span of like the last year, right? And then like it happened. I have to laugh because of how fucking ridiculous it all is. I got the first COVID vaccine, and that is how specific I could be about how serious my job is that I was one of the first people to be in line for the vaccine, healthcare wise, besides like actual first responders, doctors, nurses, people on like the front lines of COVID. I was like right behind them. So again, I don't want to specifically say what I do because I do want to keep some level of privacy, but I hope that puts into perspective how like at risk I've been this whole time. And actually, the infamous group chat of all of the other YouTubers, right? They all knew what I did, but I specifically told them as all of this was unfolding, and they were all like, "I would have quit a long time ago if I had to do that during the pandemic." So it validated how stressed I've been this whole time. And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for anyone to be like, "Oh my God, you're so brave." I have to work, as we all do. You know, I think there are a lot more brave people doing a lot more brave things, and I'm just like I'm just like an idiot in a hoodie, right? Like I don't feel important at all. I really don't. I don't want it to seem like, oh my God, I'm this like first responder kind of person. No, I'm just like, I'm someone who coincidentally got a job close to the front lines as a pandemic hit, and that's a weird thing to say, right? So I was one of the first people in line in healthcare fields to get the vaccine. I got the vaccine, and I was like, this is so interesting. I would love to make a video about this whole process because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about the vaccine. I know that I didn't even fully understand it until people who are a lot smarter than I am explain the specific science of it to me. And I do encourage everyone, if you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, I really do encourage you to do so and to look into the science of it because it is super fascinating. And like, don't let fear-mongering stop us from like getting control of a pandemic, please. But anyway, I got the first vaccine, the first COVID vaccine, and I knew that there were going to be weird symptoms. Like I knew that my body was going to hurt. I knew that like I was going to have, you know, injection site pain. And I knew that it could mimic the flu for a couple days. What had happened was I got a really bad body ache. I got a really bad headache, and I got a fever. And not like a crazy high fever, but more than like I take my temperature every day for work, sometimes multiple times a day. And it was more than I had ever had this whole year. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then everyone at my job was kind of like, it's just the vaccine. Because a couple of other people had bad reactions to the vaccine. And then it was like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and it shouldn't have lasted that long. So my job was like, just go get a COVID test. What's the worst that could happen? Around the same time, though, suspiciously other people were out at my job. And we had all kind of had a feeling it was COVID, but it was not confirmed to us by management. Which that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I went to get the COVID test to humor bosses, basically, because I was convinced I was just having a reaction, because I'm also someone who like gets bad reactions to flu shots. And then I got the phone call that I was positive. And I have never had such a weird range of emotions in my life. And this is all beginning of January, so this is very recent. And I immediately called Matt, and he had to come home that second because of the laws that are in place for COVID. If your spouse or like anyone you live with in your house tests positive for COVID, you also have to quarantine legally, which I think is pretty recent. I think it used to be like, oh, you had to like quarantine in your house separately, which I live in like a shoebox. I don't know how the fuck we were going to do that. Even when they told me I was positive, they recommended that. They were like, oh, you and your husband should stay in different rooms. I'm like, collectively, we only have 3 rooms. So how do you think that's going to work? But anyway, And at first, it was still those light, like almost vaccine related symptoms, right? So it was just the light fever, the light body aches, the light headache, everything could be controlled with like ibuprofen. So I was like, literally, my thought process was, oh, this is going to be fine. 10 days off, paid. Matt and I can clean the house and get things done that I haven't been able to do. And it paid vacation, right? Woo. That's America. You have to be sick to get paid time off, right? And then I got so severe so fast. Within days of being told I was tested positive, I was like out. Like the most sick I'd ever been. I might get emotional right now. I hope that I don't, because again, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just kind of talking at you guys like you're a journal. I do want to say though, there's a big like asterisk. What's an asterisk? It's like dashes. It's like a little star. There were a couple people in my life that thought that the COVID vaccine gave me COVID, or that were like, oh, I just knew it. Everyone I know who gets the vaccine ends up giving COVID. I want to heavily stress that the COVID vaccine does not contain the COVID virus. It doesn't contain a live virus. It doesn't contain a dead version of the virus. From my understanding of how the science works, and anyone smarter than me is more than welcome to correct me, but from my understanding, the vaccine uses mRNA, which is memory RNA, the stuff that teaches your brain, the stuff that tells your brain what the blueprints for what kind of DNA to make, uses mRNA of the protein that COVID needs to survive in your body to tell your body to make that protein, a foreign protein. And then your body goes, yo, what the hell is this? And learns to attack that specific protein so that in the future, if you do come in contact with COVID, you will have less severe symptoms. Thank you, smart people in the comments section. Basically uses messenger RNA to teach your body how to fight the specific protein that COVID needs to survive in your body. I'm pretty sure. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. It's actually very fascinating science. I recommend looking it up because it's not something they just like came out with for COVID either. It's technology that they had been working on for a long time. Super interesting. They think now it's gonna lead to better working flu shots. It's so interesting to me. If you're even remotely a science nerd like I am, definitely look into it. I'm not a biologist, so that's the best that I could do. Also, as Shendi, I hope I'm saying your name right, is saying, people also need to understand this vaccine is not going to stop you from getting COVID. It's to stop you from getting severely ill. That's what I was trying to say, is there were so many people in my life that like panicked when I got COVID, like right after getting the first vaccine, because they were like, I knew it. Everyone, like someone in my life said like, oh, everyone I know who gets the vaccine gets COVID immediately afterwards, blah, blah. And I feel like this is a situation of correlation, not causation, in that the vaccine is rolling out while COVID's also at its worst. It's like the ice cream crime study. If you don't know what that is, Google it. You'll get a good laugh out of it. Some things can be correlated, but not caused. So all things considered, I would go through the whole experience again of getting vaccinated, and I ended up getting my second vaccine. I will talk about that in a second. That was just my tangent of like, I thought my COVID symptoms were vaccine symptoms, and they weren't. And in fact, the timeline for when I was exposed, I would have been exposed at least the week before I was vaccinated. It was there was nothing I could have done. There was nothing that the vaccine did to me. I'm actually not sure if it helped or hurt me. That I don't know. And there seems to be a lot of conflicting information on if it helps or hurts if you've already been exposed to COVID and you don't know it before getting your first shot or second shot or whatever. So that I honestly can't tell you. I just want to make it very clear. I support the vaccine. I would get it again. I already got both. I encourage everyone to get it. Please Google how it works because it's so fascinating. There is no virus in the vaccine. It's messenger RNA. It's so interesting. But anyway, and as people are saying, even if you're someone who thinks like, oh, I'd be fine if I got it, and it's for the people who are the most vulnerable, that's the point, is if you were to carry COVID, having had the vaccine, you most likely would not have severe symptoms or maybe even know that you're carrying it, and that helps protect people who maybe can't get vaccinated. It helps create herd immunity. All very important stuff, right? Correlation does not equal causation. Anyway, so I tested positive for COVID. Thought that it would just be, because Matt wasn't showing symptoms either when I got the phone call that I tested positive. So I thought, great, 10 days paid, burping up seltzer water. 10 days paid off. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Everyone's saying nice things. Thank you. And also, if you're jumping in and you're like, what did I miss? Go watch from the beginning, because this is a solid storyline at this point. 10 days paid vacation. Great. We'll be able to clean the house. We'll spend time with Remy, who is my dog. I adopted a dog on Halloween, if you didn't know. He's the love of my life. He's on all of my social medias. Everything will be great. We'll just stay inside, wear masks, double mask if we have to, go in the hallway to protect the other people living in my building, have groceries delivered, like only leave the house to let Remy out, blah, blah, blah. We'll just do everything that we can to be safe. And then, so going back to what I said before, my tangent about the vaccines, and then I got the most sick that I'd ever been in my life, and I didn't know if I was going to pull through. And I don't say that with any ounce of drama, with any ounce of hyperbolic anything, like with any ounce of theater. It's the most sick I've ever been in my life and the most scared I've ever been in my life, which is kind of why I wanted to make this video, because I want everyone who, I think everyone is taking COVID seriously. I would hope my audience, everyone's taking COVID seriously. But while this was all happening for me, I'm seeing people on my social medias being like, do any of my friends want to hang out right now? Does anyone want to go on a trip with me? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, to get real for a second, to get really real for a second, when the pandemic first hit and my job first started like really dealing with it, I will never, as long as I live, forget a phone call that my job received from a, I'm going to like use the word client, from a client whose husband was diagnosed with COVID and then gone within 3 days. I will never, as long as I live, forget that phone call. And it was literally the start of the pandemic too, like when it first hit my city. I will never fucking forget this person saying that their husband was diagnosed with COVID and within 3 days they were in the hospital and gone. I will never forget that. And I know so many people in my comment section, on my social media, so people in my real life, I know so many people who have lost someone due to COVID. And so that phone call was in my head that whole time. Everyone who's lost someone was in my head the whole time, because I think I might have said this in the beginning of the video, I serve a very high-risk population, and so does Matt. And I've seen a lot of people, I've had a lot of clients who have had a lot of death around them or have died themselves because of COVID at my job. And it's been real for me this whole time. Same with Matt. That's just my little spiel. But anyway, I cannot believe how sick I got, because I'm not somebody with predisposed health conditions. I'm not somebody who is considered high risk, besides the fact that like I'm overweight. That's basically the one thing I got going for me. And I'm sorry, everyone who's saying they've lost someone, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not fucking okay, and I'm so sorry. Matt, and someone asked about Matt testing positive too. Matt did end up testing positive too, so he was carrying it and didn't know it. So again, this is how serious this whole situation is that I only thought I was showing symptoms because I had just been vaccinated. And my symptoms I easily could have brushed off as like sinus issues. I easily could have brushed it off as like allergies because it wasn't that serious at first. And Matt had no symptoms when he tested positive. And he only had to get tested because his wife tested positive. So for his job, he had to go get a test. And I know how lucky I am, despite how scary it was. So it all kind of happened real fast. And I went from like watching all the Star Wars movies on the couch with my husband and my dog, ordering takeout, taking some ibuprofen, not really, you know, having the worst symptoms, to not even lying in bed, sitting in bed every night, using all of the energy that I had left to focus on breathing, and going to bed at night not knowing if I was going to wake up the next day, and not telling my family how serious it was because I didn't want them to panic, because they were already panicking that I had tested positive and that I was in a different state from them. And also not wanting to tell Matt how serious it was, which is very stupid on my part. There are sirens going by. I live in a city. We all know this. Sorry, everybody. Every time a siren goes by in a video, I just miss makeup struggles. But that's like to lighten the mood for a second. I didn't want to tell Matt how serious it was, because I didn't want, this is so stupid what I'm about to say, and I beg anybody who may or may not test positive for COVID, like, do not do what I'm about to say. I didn't want Matt to take me to a hospital, because in my mind, I didn't want to be alone in a hospital, because I knew that Matt couldn't be there with me. And I didn't want to die in a hospital. My thought process was, well, if I'm going to die, I'd rather die at home. That is so fucked. Do not do that. If you have COVID and you are struggling to breathe, go to a hospital. I'm literally an asshole. But I was just so scared. I was so absolutely terrified. And there were moments where Matt was like pushing on my fingernail beds without fake nails on, obviously, to see if the blood was coming to my nails. And we were looking at my lips to make sure that they weren't turning blue. And I was trying everything. I was trying like the Vicks rub. I was taking hot showers, blah, blah, blah. I also didn't have a doctor at this point, because I only recently have healthcare from my job. So I had gone 3 years before my current job without having healthcare, and I had moved, obviously, so I didn't have a primary care doctor yet. I now do. And also, when I tested positive, nobody gave me any help. No one gave me any advice. Nobody told me, hey, this is how you treat it at home. I was just told, like, literally, I was told, like, oh, my job will call me every so many days to make sure I could go back to work. Rest and take your temperature, because you need to report your temperature to my job. So literally, the care that I was getting was so I could go back to work, so I could make sure that I could safely go back to work. So I wasn't told how to take care of myself at home. I wasn't told when I should go to a hospital. The advice that I found was like off Twitter, and also asking people in my life who I knew had COVID before, asking them what they felt like, asking them how long their symptoms lasted, asking them their opinions on when you should or shouldn't go to a hospital. And that's not even reliable, because everyone experiences COVID differently. So there are people in my life who had it and never knew that they had it to begin with. And there are people in my life who had it to the point where they were as sick as I was, had it to the point where they were even more sick, people who did go to the hospital, people like, so, so yeah, a lot of people were asking me if I lost my smell and taste. I did for a couple days. That's very strange because I know people who like still to this day, months past COVID, still don't fully have their smell and taste. I only lost it for a couple days and then I got it back, which is so strange, which goes to show how different everyone has COVID. And it was like, the only way I can say it without getting graphic into like what my body was doing and how it was reacting is it's evil. Like that's the best way that I could phrase it. Is it's the most evil thing that's ever happened to me. And my brain physically can't imagine ever going through something like that again, even though I know the fucked part is I could. Even having had it once, even being fully vaccinated, I could go through that again. And now, and to tangent for side note to Matt, to illustrate how different it hits everybody. Matt tested positive. He was fine. He was really, shout out to Matt, because he was the one that took care of me, took care of the dog, took care of the house. There was like a 3-day period where he kind of had flu-like symptoms, and then he was fine again. And like bounced back really fast, went back to a full work schedule, didn't have any long-term effects, like nothing. Whereas for me, I'm now, even though I tested positive well over a month ago, and I've since tested negative, I've since gone back to work, blah, blah, blah. I'm still dealing with COVID every single day. So, for instance, have my handy dandy inhaler. I've never had to have an inhaler in my life. Now this always has to be on me. I thought I lost it like 3 days ago. It just fell out of my purse and fell under like our green lazy boy chair. But I had panic attacks and sobbed because I couldn't find this. And which obviously made breathing worse, because what happened was I was cleared to go back to work probably sooner than I should have been. So I started to feel better. I started to get over that whole like thinking I'm going to die every day thing, which for people who brought up the post-COVID like emotional effects and stuff, I am working with my therapist about that. It's very real. I have a lot of survivor's guilt. I have a lot of, I don't want to say PTSD, but like trauma that I'm probably going to have to deal with for the rest of my life because of having COVID. I went back to work too soon because this is the financial part that I told everyone that I just didn't want to hear your financial advice about any of this, because I got paid 2 weeks paid as per the federal government for having COVID. But after 2 weeks, it came out of my sick time, and I just didn't have the sick time to stay home as long as I needed to. And that's the reality of America, baby. So I wasn't feverish. I wasn't, I didn't really have any symptoms. I went back to work way too soon. And after working I didn't even make it 2 days. I worked 1 full day and then most of a second day. And my body just felt physically fucking destroyed. After I felt mentally destroyed, I felt physically destroyed. I was having panic attacks at the thought of even going back to work because I didn't want to go back to the place that made me that sick. I don't ever want to be put in a position where I'm that sick again. Sorry, everybody. Because I really can't express enough that I didn't think I was going to make it and how evil it was. I've never been in a situation like that where I just couldn't breathe with no relief, where I had to focus all of my energy on breathing. It felt like my lungs were attacked. But yeah, so I didn't want to mentally, I wasn't ready to go back to work because I didn't want to go back to the place that made me sick. And physically, I just wasn't ready. I just hadn't had enough rest. I I wasn't prepared for the long-term symptoms. My doctor is calling it like post-COVID syndrome because there is like no word for, there's just not enough. Like I'm sure one day there'll be enough science and like explanation for all of this, but right now there's just not. So I went back to work and only made it for like 1.5 days, had to take like another full week off of work, totally unpaid. But it doesn't fucking matter. I just had to rest. And then like kind of made it through another part of a week, kind of had like I still have yet to make it through a full week of work, which has been rough. It's been rough on the psyche, it's been rough financially. And it literally feels like I just wasn't even able to rest because I had no sick time. But anyway, this is why I don't want anyone to give me advice, because I've already looked into like the partial unemployment things, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying the best I can. Thankfully, I have a husband who works very hard and we're okay. And we've always been financially okay. Like it is what it is. But like I'm fine. I'm not looking for sympathy or anything. I'm just looking to talk at the internet. What was I gonna say? I've yet to make it through a whole week of work, and then I got the second vaccine. My doctor, I have the most amazing doctor that I've ever had in my life. I am so beyond blessed to have the doctor that I have, because she basically said to me, like, we're gonna figure this out, because I was suffering post going back to work, post COVID. Like I couldn't walk from one part of my house to the other without getting winded. I couldn't really walk my dog. I couldn't stand for too long. I couldn't do chores. This is the longest I've been able to talk without getting winded. I was like Marco Poloing Audra and Teresa and like having to stop because I was getting winded talking. I still get winded talking a lot. Like I was just Marco Poloing someone recently and I was like, hold on, winded. Like bending down to pick up laundry on the floor. Why am I out of focus? Was winding me. But so working was like, I literally felt like I ran a marathon the first day I went back to work. But my doctor is so amazing. It's like, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to figure this out. We're going to treat you. I was able to get into a doctor very quickly. I will say that's one of the perks of being in healthcare is I do have access to basically any kind of doctor I could ever need. And but I have not been there long enough for disability or for FMLA, so love that for me. But so like literally the last 2 weeks, every test under the sun, right? Got 5 vials of blood taken out of me, got an EKG, got a chest x-ray, got like all of these exams and things and like all this crap, because it was kind of like, what's wrong with me now? And are there any long-term side effects? Because I think someone had said earlier that someone in their life has like a heart problem now because of COVID. I've heard that. I've heard people develop asthma who've never had asthma before post-COVID. I've heard like all of this crap. And no one knows why, and it's just like all a fucking nightmare, because that was also something that was putting a lot of emotional stress on me, is like, am I going to be physically different for the rest of my life now? Is this something where along the lines they're going to find out that there's like this crazy health connection between some disease and having COVID in your life? Like, I don't know. Nobody knows, right? I'm getting myself worked up. Thankfully, 5 vials of blood later. So that was a lot. When my phlebotomist showed me how much I had to have taken out of me, I was like, okay, what's the worst that could happen now? I got all of my labs back. To me, it's all interesting because I'm like a sciencey kind of nerd now, having worked in the field I am. This is all very fascinating to me. So I was very interested to see my levels of like everything. Thankfully, knock on wood, I'm very healthy. Like, woo! Like, my vitamin levels were healthy. My cholesterol level was like really, really healthy. And I'm very proud of that because I work really hard to make good food in my life. Like, everything was good. The thing that my doctor found, though, this is bananas, because who would have thought? A normal vitamin D range, I think, is like 30 to 50, 30 to 100, somewhere like that. My vitamin D level was like a 9. Like, it was like not even a third of what a normal person's vitamin D level should be. And that explained so much of my whole life, because one, I just described how I suffer severely from dysthymia, and my dysthymia is genetic. It's not something that, like, my diet, my workout, my schedule, it's not something. Those are things that can help control my dysthymia, but they're not causes for my dysthymia. So, like, don't tell me to fucking meditate or try thinking positive, because it's not how that works. It's a chemical imbalance in my brain. Just like the vitamin D thing, the vitamin D is most likely, for how deficient I am, it's most likely genetic. It's not something that, like, sunlight and eating more vitamin D enriched foods and more, drinking more milk. I don't drink milk anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that those things can fix. My deficiency is most likely genetic. And real interesting, because there are links to vitamin D deficiencies and having severe reactions to COVID. And some of the symptoms of vitamin D deficiencies are like having bad respiratory illnesses, not being able to bounce back from illnesses quickly, not healing fast from like wounds and bruises and things like that. And those are all things that I've always had. I've never really bounced back from illnesses quickly. I've never really healed fast. Like, even with the flu, historically, before I started getting the flu shot, if I got the flu, I'd be out for like a month, 2 months. Like, it would wipe me the fuck out. I always like haven't bounced back from illness as well. And I was worried it would be like a thyroid thing or something like that. It's not, thank God. Like, even though if it was, I would have been able to treat that. Like, it is what it is. But like, my levels of everything else were great except for my vitamin D. So now I'm on like a bananas high dose of vitamin D supplements, and according to my doctor, it's going to take months to get it to like where it needs to be, but I've already started the process. So it was so funny to me Googling like signs of a vitamin D deficiency, and it was like, oh, everything in my life could be explained because of one thing, because of one deficiency. So moral of the story, if you're able to, go get blood work and check your vitamin levels. Oh man, because it's like, so so now I'm on like a ridiculous dose of vitamin D supplements, but it's fine. That's like the least of my concerns. But it's so interesting, because really, I don't know. I think there's just like, they're theorizing there's a link between vitamin D deficiency and severe COVID reactions, but they, being scientists and doctors, think that there might be a link between the two. It's so fascinating to me. Like, I'm glad that I'm able to enjoy the science part of it, because all of it has sucked so badly. So, where am I now? I was dealing with really bad chest pain that I couldn't get past ever since I had COVID. I was dealing with shortness of breath ever since I had COVID. I was dealing with windedness. I was like being exhausted, body aches, the whole nine. So my doctor put me on a steroid, which has very much helped, and has given me an inhaler, which has very much helped, because I wouldn't be able to get through my day without this. And what my doctor found was that basically COVID has led to one of either three things for me, but all three things are treated the same way anyway. Either COVID caused scarring on my lungs, or it caused inflammation in the cartilage that connects my ribs to my sternum, or I basically have like temporary asthma. It's most likely what we think is the cartilage to the sternum, and so your ribs are connected to your breastbone, your chest plate, whatever the fuck you want to call it, your sternum, by little pieces of cartilage. Those can become severely inflamed due to trauma from coughing too much, and it was the worst cough I'd ever had in my life. Like, I would get in coughing fits that I couldn't get out of. So it was most likely that. Any way you phrase it, any of those three things I just named are all inflammation in the chest. So being on an albuterol inhaler, being on a steroid, it's boosting my healing. It's opening up my bronchial tubes. It's making it so I can breathe and get through my day. It's been a wild ride. Today is the best that I've felt so far. An hour into my story. Everyone's talking about vitamin D. It's really funny, actually. My older sister, she's a chemist, and she teaches food science, and she got also a health science certification. She's really a smart lady. My older sister, she is an actual real scientist, not just me who like has a healthy interest in science. But she even had said to my mom, like the day before I got my labs back, that I should be taking more vitamin D. And then sure enough, I was told that I need to start taking some more fucking vitamin D. I'm out of breath now. I'm emotionally spent. I'm physically spent. It's just been wild, crazy. I'm trying to get the word crazy out of my vocabulary. It's just been interesting and not like I think a lot of people can relate to this. I went through phases of like being so convinced that I would get COVID to, I guess, enough time had passed and kind of figuring out the new normal. I know everyone fucking hates that phrase, myself included. And to kind of being like, it's been here so long, whatever. Like, if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now, which is terrible thinking. I got too complicit. To then, when everything started spiking again towards the holidays, being terrified again, and then getting COVID. So, like, is there a lesson to be learned here besides, like, don't go out if you don't have to? Like, distancing things seriously. Wear your mask, double mask. I know a lot of people are pissed off about the double mask thing, but if you wear one of those like blue hospital grade masks and then wear your cute mask over it, like who cares? Like, but really it's like not going the fuck out if you don't have to. Like, I had to go to my job and I got COVID from my job, and it was inevitable that was probably going to happen to me, and I kind of wish that my job took the safety of their workers as seriously as they took the safety of the facility. And I've noticed that they are now after the fact. But because someone else I work directly with tested positive and she still hasn't returned back to work. So it's like really fucking scary. So take this shit seriously. I'm so fucking lucky that I get to sit here and just be mad that it happened to me. Because it's not fucking okay. Like, half a million people, almost 500,000 people, are not on this fucking earth anymore that should be. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, vitamin D is fat soluble vitamins, so you can take too much. Because I am being monitored by blood work. Like, again, like, believe me, the doctor I have is so on top of it. She is so not going to let anything happen to me. I am so lucky. She basically adopted me because of how severe I was. Like, I'm in really good hands with my care team. I'm so thankful for that. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. It's just been so much. What sucks now, besides getting used to my day-to-day life being different, like getting used to, like, doctor, I'm your mother now. It kind of feels like that. Like, getting used to, like, I could only start taking Remy on full walks like recently. Like it used to be like I couldn't even walk my dog. And that sucks because that's like an integral part of my day. That seems so stupid, right? But such an integral part of my day was the long walk I got to have with Remy every day, sometimes twice a day. So to not be able to do that, one, felt like I was losing bonding time with my dog. That sounds stupid, but I feel that way. And two, it sucks to have something limit your mobility. That sucks. Anyone with any kind of chronic pain, illness, anything like that fucking sucks, right? And like anything that limits your routine in general fucking sucks. And it puts you in a bad mental health space because you think, what's wrong with you? And I don't know, like not being able to help out with chores in my house and having to see Matt do everything. That fucking sucked. Not being able to cook because Matt, no offense, can't really cook. That sucked. I love Matt dearly. But to have to relinquish all control of not being able to cook our dinners and having to see him do it, that sucked. So now, like, I'm just like mad about the whole thing, and I'm sad about the whole thing, and I have all these emotions about it, and I feel like pissed that like I didn't, because I have to wonder if I did something different, could it have stopped me from getting it? Like, but then at the same time, I feel like I did everything that I could have done correctly. I did everything I was supposed to do. I followed every regulation. Like, I don't know what could have happened differently. That's where I am right now. But I did get the second vaccine which has been really interesting too, because my doctor basically was like, at this point, I don't see the harm in it, but also like no one kind of really knows a lot about like the vaccine in regards to if you should or shouldn't get it so close after of testing positive. Some people are saying like wait a couple months, but I wasn't in a position where I could because I had already gotten the first one, so I kind of had to. And then getting the vaccine set me back in my recovery because it caused me to like get all of my body aches back that I had just gotten rid of. Wild. The whole thing has been wild. As a disabled person, I was chatting with other people like me who live with severe pain and limited mobility and said it will be a horrible shock for people who are healthy before this. Oh, of course, 100%. It takes a while to adjust, and some of us never do learn to adjust. 100%. I'm just like, it all, like, please, like, I beg of you, I beg and plead with my whole heart and soul. And I know I can only put so much on the individual because there's so many government bodies that don't give a shit, like how California was just kind of like, open it all back up. I literally, like I said, I can only put so much of the blame on the individual, but you would think that even in a situation where the government's like, what COVID, where, that individuals would still want to be as safe as possible. I'm begging you to like wear your mask, wash your hands, limit your social interactions. Don't go out if you don't have to. I know a lot of people like me have to go back to work. I get it. Holy shit. And I think about what if I still lived at home when I had this? Like all of the what ifs, right? Like what if I was near my parents? Oh my God. Like what if we didn't take enough caution in the house and something happened to one of the people who lives in this building? Oh, I know you can't live like that. I know you can't think about the what ifs. I know you got to go forward. If my dad, my whole life has always told me you can only go forward. I know that. It just like sucks. It all fucking sucks. Now my chest hurts. I don't want to do this on camera though. I tested positive back in December and haven't improved much at all since. Blood oxygen is good enough to keep me out of the hospital, but I'm drowning. I'm immunocompromised, disabled, and angry. I'm so sorry, number one. But two, that's how I feel, is like my body's different now and I'm angry. And it pisses me off, especially when people come into my job and don't take it seriously, because I want with everything in my body to scream at them, like, put your fucking mask on because I was just out for 2 months from COVID. So do me a solid and put it on. Things like you wish so badly, right? Like one of my coworkers lost her father from COVID. And there are times where I know that she wants to be like, hey, fucking act right because I just fucking lost my dad. Like, and you know what really is a fucking slap in the face? Is how many times people have come into my job and made political comments about COVID and said shit to me like, oh, I bet you can't wait until the election's over and we could take these masks off. Like insinuating that it was like something that was like used as like political control and like to control Americans, which how a moment to be pissed for a second. How fucking narrow-minded and self-centered do Americans think they are that they think that we're the only country going through COVID right now? As if there aren't fucking other countries being fucking devastated by COVID right now. Are you fucking kidding me? And you're so fucking narrow-minded in your worldview that you think this is something that somebody or some government entity is doing to control the American people. Fuck all the way off. Fuck all the way off. Seriously. But so I've had a lot of people say shit like that to me. And it's just such a fucking slap in the face. It's been a slap in the face this whole fucking time that I've been going to work. That Matt's been going to work, that every essential worker has been going to work. It's been such a fucking slap in the face to all of us when people come in and like joke about COVID or like say some kind of bullshit political thing or whatever the fuck. Absolutely fuck off. I digress. That was my angry rant. Yeah, why can I say that? Because I want to keep my job. Because I like living in this house and having the lifestyle that I have, and I don't want to be a burden on Matt to have to take care of 2 adults and a dog on his own. Thank the universe that we adopted Remy when we did, and I had Remy through this whole process, because he is truly the love of my life. I can't get him to come on camera because he's snoozing in the living room. But go on my Twitter or my Instagram and you can see approximately 8,000 photos of Remy. But thank God, universe, thank whatever the hell you believe in. I don't even know what I believe in half the time. That's too real. Thank the whatever that I had him this whole process, this whole experience. Because he's just truly been like the best comfort, the best light of my life. He was with me the entire time, just at my side the entire time. Because I was away from my family during all this. And that part sucked too, because on the one hand, it was like for the best, obviously, that I was away from my senior parents while this was happening. But also there were some days where I just like cried because I wanted my mom. Like that's so real. And like my mom was texting me, telling me how worried she was. And I had to be like, no, I'm fine. When I wasn't fine, but I didn't want to scare them. And I only told them after the fact how bad it was. Anyway, that's my story. That's where I've been for 6 months. That's it. Questions, comments, concerns? Again, I'm going to stress one more time. I'm not looking for medical advice. I'm not looking for financial advice. I'm not looking for any kind of advice. I'm not looking for sympathy. I am good. I'm as good as I could be right now. I have a very good medical team. I'm finally being taken care of. The emotional part's going to suck for a while. And a lot of people in my life who I know who have had COVID have all been able to relate to that. So I feel a little bit of comfort in knowing that I'm not alone, which is kind of, again, why I like to make these kind of lives where I just scream at the camera. Because I know it helps other people. Even if like one person feels like they could relate to anything or feels less alone because of all of this. I don't know. Thank you everyone for saying nice things to me, by the way, for giving me love, for all of that stuff. I'm going to be okay, thankfully. I want to just get back to normal, but I know I can't force it. And I tried to force it, and that pushed me back in my recovery. So I'm learning to just rest when my body tells me to rest. And I'm learning to take it easy when I feel like I have to take it easy. I would probably be able to rest a lot better if like capitalism wasn't a thing. And if I like, had paid sick time and shit like that. But anyway, I'm still, the same person, still loving plants, still loving makeup, still loving cooking, still loving my dog. I have been loving makeup this whole process. There's so much makeup I want to talk to you guys about. Oh my gosh. Because that also helped me get through all of this, is that I watched all of the Star Wars movies in order, which I will say, I take back all of the mean things I ever said about the prequels when watching the sequels, because God, those are garbage. And like watching makeup YouTube were like my comforts through having COVID. Playing Skyrim again and like put over 100 hours into like one character that I created over COVID, and did everything that there possibly was to do in Skyrim, and now my character is perfect, but I'm bored. So I've been playing like Graveyard Keeper, which is a like it's Graveyard Keeper is like Stardew Valley's goth cousin. It's really cute. I have a bunch of like indie horror games that I have to get into. Like I just bought, I think the game is called, let me pull up my Steam real quick. Sorry if the clicking is annoying. Come on, Steam. I think it's called There's Nobody Under the Lighthouse or something like that. It's an indie game. It's an indie horror game that's kind of created in like the original. Oh, I came up. Let's see. What is it called? No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. It's an indie game that I just downloaded because it went on sale on Steam from like $5 to $3. Ooh. And it's done in the style of like an old school horror RPG. Like it's old school, like almost like old school Resident Evil or Silent Hill, like graphics wise. And it appeals to me because I worked at a lighthouse for 3 years. Coolest thing about me, if you ask me. So I'm excited to play that. What else do I have in my game list that I want to play? Graveyard Keeper is so fun. What else have I wanted to play? I just downloaded this game that just came out that had really good reviews, Omori. Omori, Omori. I haven't played it yet. I literally just bought it like 2 days ago. But anyway, moral of the story. I think I'm going to wrap up here now that I just screamed at the camera for an hour because I need more water and I need my inhaler. Did you ever watch the movie The Lighthouse? What is your Lighthouse Keeper opinion on it? If you have, I haven't. I'm going to have to Google it. It's funny because there's one of the last BuzzFeed Unsolved, they're talking about like a lighthouse where all of the keepers like vanished and blah blah blah. And there's a part where they're discussing the theories. Obviously, it's BuzzFeed Unsolved, and they're talking about whether or not the winds could have been bad enough to sweep them away, or whether or not like something like that. And I'm like yelling at the screen, like, "Of course they could have been. Have you ever worked at a lighthouse? Duh!" And I'm like, "No, Lacie, that's like a weird thing. It's not like a mall job. No one works at a fucking lighthouse." That's easily the coolest thing I ever got to do. I wish I could still do it every day. But anyway, I'm going to go because I need my inhaler and I need water. But I love you all so much. I'm actually really glad that I did this because it helped get a lot of all of my pent up feelings out. And I know that the people who watch these lives are the people who just care about me as a person. So it helps eliminate a lot of the bullshit that might happen in my comments. But I love you all. I want to be back with real videos very soon. I'm actually, without spoiling too much, but those who made it to the end of this, you get the spoiler. I was recruited into a series by someone. So I have kind of no choice but to come back to YouTube. Wink, 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 wink. So I'm hoping that this week maybe I'll feel up to posting a real video. If not, the following week. I just had to get this all off my chest. So that's it. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Valentine's Day. I'm trying my hardest to say it correctly because apparently I don't say it right. Valentine's. Happy Valentine's Day. I love you all. Have a good night. Bye. End.